Hello, everyone.
Well, hello, and welcome to this month's From a Poet's Point of View. My name is Sister Joy, and I'm the Poet Laureate of Prince George's County, Maryland. Today's event is presented by the Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council with support and in partnership with Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Memorial Library System, and the Nora Roberts Foundation. Now, we greatly appreciate and thank them for their service. And this is number 5. This is the 5th episode for this year's series. And of course, the series takes place each month on the 3rd Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. So while we may have gotten off to just a few minutes of a late start, we are underway, and we are very, very excited to be coming to you live today from Arts the Nation. And of course, you're asking the question, what is Arts the Nation? Arts the Nation is the new performance and gallery space of the Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council at National Harbor. So we are soon to have our grand opening, but we're doing a few soft opening events right here on Waterfront Street. As a matter of fact, for those that want to make a mental note or put it in your book or phone, we're at 162 Waterfront Street, Oxon Hill, Maryland, National Harbor, 20745. Okay, so now that we've gotten all of the administrative matters out of the way, let's talk a little bit about what we'll be doing today. Of course, we have poets. We have 3 phenomenal poets, and they will both present their poetry and also discuss their approach to writing poetry. They'll be just talking about some of the issues that are of significance to them. And we'll also talk about their approach to writing their poetry. Now, some of you may have questions that you can post in the Zoom chat. So if you have questions, please do post them in the Zoom chat. And at some break, we'll come through and respond to or present those questions to our guest poets and see what kind of feedback we can provide directly to you who are joining us. And we're very happy to have you with us. Now, today's 3 poets are Gail Danley, Bernardo Taylor, and Hoke Glover, who is, by the way, very well known throughout the eastern region of the United States as Brother Yao. Most of the folks who are connected with poetry may know Brother Yao from a previous experience, but he'll talk more about that. So welcome everybody to From a Poet's Point of View. Let's see, we'll be talking about in an open forum because it's going to be discussion as well as interview as well as performance of poetry. But we'll be discussing 2 poems from each poet, and then they'll address the issue of how and why they write and specific styles that they write in, how they get from inspiration to actual performance on stage or presentation of their poetry in a book. Now, since our format is one of poetry presentation and discussion, I'll be directing those 2 questions to each poet. And after they present their poems, then we'll have to them personally. I encourage you, our audience, to post your questions in the Zoom chat and the questions. Our first poet, Bernardo Taylor. Welcome, Bernardo.
I know I'm on mute. That's the new saying for 2020, right? You're muted. How are you doing, Joy? You're frozen. That's the next new thing. Bandwidth and things like that. Did you want me to read the poem, or did you have a question? Okay. Because I'm a professional, I know how to do this. So what I'm going to do is, I guess...
Bernardo, are you there?
I'm here. Did we lose Joy? Oh, Joy's over there. Joy, you're muted.
I'm muted.
Yes, you're okay now.
Okay. So I'm hoping that the other things that I said were heard. No. So we can turn the volume down. Should we start from the top?
Yeah, start from the top.
Okay. I do apologize. Nobody. All right, this is live. Like I said, this is live from National Harbor. Hello and welcome to the May 2021 episode of From a Poet's Point of View. My name is Sister Joy, and I am the Poet Laureate of Prince George's County. Now, today's event is presented by the Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council with support and in partnership with Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Memorial Library System, and the Nora Roberts Foundation. We greatly appreciate and thank them for their support. Now, this is the 5th episode of this 2-hour virtual poetry series that takes place each 3rd Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. Of course, that's Eastern Standard Time. Yes. At this moment, well, at this monthly event, poets will present both their poetry, but also discuss their approach to writing, discuss the issues that are of significance to them, those issues that move them to write poetry. They'll also respond to questions that you, our guests, present through the Zoom chat. Now, it is my honor and privilege to present these 3 dynamic poets who join me today in today's celebration. They are Gail Danley, Bernardo Taylor, and Hoke Glover, who is, by the way, very well known throughout the eastern region of this country as Brother Yao. Now, the discussions that will take place will not necessarily relate directly to their poetry, but they will be discussions that are of relevance and significance to the poets. They will address issues that, well, you'll see as we go, because the poems will speak for themselves, but we want you, our audience, to get to know the poets beyond the poem. Accordingly, this will be an open forum, and there'll be an opportunity for each poet to weigh in on questions. Perhaps that was their, but we want it to be a forum where it's open dialogue. I'm going to pose 2 questions to each poet, and then they will also respond to questions perhaps presented in the Zoom chat. questions will address things like how they get from inspiration to that final performance on stage. Absolutely. Now, since our format is one of presentation and discussion, I'll be directing those 2 questions to each poet after they present their poems. All guest poets are free to participate in discussions that ensue. And as I said before, I encourage and ask you, our post questions for our guest poets in Zoom chat. We'll try to fit in 1, possibly 2 questions per poet, but we'll see what time will accommodate. Our first poet will be Bernardo Taylor. Let me share a little bit about him before he presents and discusses his poetry. So first, let me say to Bernardo, welcome, Bernardo.
Thank you.
We're very happy to have you. Okay, now Bernardo, born Andre Bernardo Taylor, is one of the most prolific wordsmiths of his time. His poems and songs cover the entire range of the human experience, from spirituality to nature, from love to politics, and from education to inspiration. Now, his written word has appeared in numerous magazines, newspapers, anthologies. His chapbook, Bridge Over Trouble, has been said to be a powerful healing tonic to its readers. He has presented his poetry and songs on well over 200 stages internationally. Venues and events such as the Clarice Smith Center for the Performing Arts, the Reginald F. Lewis Museum, the Folgers Shakespeare Theater, the Italian Embassy, the Jazz Club in South Africa, the Rotary Society in Kingston, Jamaica, the Kunte Kinte Festival, and countless others. As you can see, this poet gets around. Now, Bernardo is also an alumnus of the iconic poetry groups Poets in Progress and the Anointed Pens, and is currently a member of Collective Voices. He is also a poet of excellence of Prince George's County, Maryland. So now we get to hear directly from the poet himself. Bernardo, could you share 2 poems? And after your poems, I will pose a few questions. Welcome, Bernardo.
Thank you. Louder, I can't hear the applause. I'm a little bit of a character, y'all. I'm learning that while sometimes my poetic message is quite serious, sometimes I don't have to be. And I'm learning to age gracefully, come a long way in life. This first poem I want to introduce you to is a poem that is for where we are now. We are in a time of new beginnings. This poem is titled New Skies to Search for Blue In. New skies to search for blue in. New dreams to seek out solace. Where new is now the quiet. New means to reach nirvana. New ways to see the promise. when new is new no longer. New is the number 7. New skies in search of blue. New skies to search for blue in. The ruin of the world, some rumored, tumor of our twisted tongues. How many of them cursed and hated. Woe, what wicked deeds were done. New dreams to seek out solace. Eradicate the ignorant darkness. New light, longer, stronger rays. Insert the hope of certain outcomes. And kingdom come of God's display. Where new is now the quiet. I need someone of gentle spirit to speak to smoke that stirs my soul. Like hurricane inside its center, a modicum of slight control. New means to reach nirvana. Frequencies that speak to sunlight, that even touches those of clouds, that calls for them to work together, yet with no utterance aloud. New ways to see the promise. Look through prisms, bare partitions. Invest in new discoveries old. Work at growing into flowing. See intuition then unfold. When new is new no longer, will songs we sing become new favorites, taking us to higher heights, past those portals where we trembled, not knowing what beyond the night. New is the number 7. Revel in each dawning on display. Rejoice richly, rising sun. Rays become the rhyme and reason. The time of new has now begun. New skies in search of blue, the clues in many books surmised. Rising tides where rivers run. Find dreams wherein your hopes might cling to. The time of new has now begun.
All right, all right. Very good.
Would you like me to go to the second poem,
Thank
George?
you.
Or do you want to talk about that one first?
Yes. Well, we'll go to the second poem and then we'll come back to the questions.
All right. Now, this poem is a favorite. This is one of the first poems I was known for that put my name on the lips of other poets. I thought I was going to come in and do my voice because that's also another crowd pleaser. And I think it's one that speaks to me finding who I am with my poetry. However, when I talked to a friend of mine earlier today, he told me that there is a poem that everybody knows you for. You got to do that one. And as I thought about it, I said, you're right. If you only know me by one poem, ever remember me, you will know me by this poem. This poem is called Listen. Listen to the words. Listen to them flow. Follow them along to wherever they go. Listen to the rhythm. Hypnotism discreet will have you nodding your head and patting your feet. But you can stay in your seat. No, you don't need to dance. All I'm asking of you is just give them a chance to take root. Recognize truth when you hear it. It's all about love. Here's some for your spirit. Just listen. Listen to the words. Listen to them come. But where in the world are they coming from? They are coming from the heart, from the soul, from the core. They are falling from the ceiling and growing through the floor. Bursting through the window, surging through the door. Every time the wind blows, I'm listening for a new revelation, a song or a sound, a vision that will take me on to high ground. I want to tell you what I found right now. Just listen. Listen to the words now merging with the bass. Listen for the horn. See, I left a space for a taste of the reed to wail and to blow, because we truly need all the highs and the lows. It brings forth the balance, the life that we know. The bitter and sweet make it all complete. It's learning how to deal with your feelings that will keep you from losing your mind, committing a crime, wasting your time while running down alleys blind. Because if God is defined by love, by divine, we all were created to shine if we just learn to listen. So listen to the words. Let them touch your intellect. Connect reflect, respect, project, and let them rain down on you like a waterfall all over your being. You might start seeing things in a perspective that you never noticed before. It's like walking through a brand new door. There's so much more in store for sure. You just might find your cure if you just learn to listen. So listen to the words, y'all. Listen with your mind. Turn them all around and see what you'll find. Listen like a priest to confessions of sin. Listen very carefully to where people been. Now, is that B-E-N-D or B-E-N? Whatever application gets you by, my friend, ebonics, harmonic, symphonic, or chronic, you can take whatever and use it as a tonic to soothe your ills or get your thrills. It can make you chill like peace, be still. It'll pay your bills if your skills appeal, and it only takes one word to deal sometimes. Just listen. Listen to the words, feel them tingle as they climb, wrapped around your spine, clinging like a vine. Now up around your neck, yet stretching towards your mind, because every thought bears fruit in its own sweet time. So just listen to the language pouring from the heart. A little birdie told me that listening was an art. So listen for an answer right after you prayed. Listen for the things that people don't say. Listen to a look, to a stance, to a move, and if you practice often, you're going to improve. You've only got one mouth, but two ears, so if you will, take a tip from your creator. Learn to sit still and listen.
All right, okay, Bernardo, and you're right, that is truly your signature poem, and we're very glad that you shared it here today. Thank you, Bernardo. Now, I'm going to ask one question specifically about your signature poem. Listen. Oh my gosh, I love that poem because it has so many messages. But what prompted you to write this particular poem? Tell us the backstory.
Listen was crafted, started out by me going to an event where I was actually there to support a singer because I'm a songwriter and I wanted to hear her sing at this event she was at. And somewhere in the middle of the event came out, the only name that stands out to me is Kenny Carroll. But there came out about 3 or 4 poets who came midway through the show and started doing open mic, or doing spoken word rather. And I was like, wow, spoken word, good God, I can do that. I might not can carry the tunes like my sister can, but I can at least take the words and say them to you, you know. And as I was sitting there at the table, the words listen started coming to me because I'm looking at the poets and I'm saying, okay, this is what poets want their audiences to do. They feel as if by the time you get to the point where you're standing in front of a microphone, in front of an audience, you feel like you have something to say. Of all the millions and billions of human beings in the world, you have something to say. And right now you would like for everybody to listen to you. And that's how Listen began to grow. It started on the back of a cocktail napkin. Of course, it wasn't finished in a day. The next time I wrote on the back of a coffee cup. Then I finally wrote on a piece of paper. Then I wrote on another napkin. And next thing you know, I'm sitting here with all these different things and I'm trying to craft them. Okay, this one should go here, this one should, and then this one, and this one. And then, of course, the editing process. And that's how Listen was born.
Okay. So, and it's a powerful piece. It's definitely. Now, to let our guests get to understand you a little bit, well, and the poem itself, speak about, well, first of all, you're known to be the sing-song poet because you love to, and you do it very well, you weave song, music into your poetry. Tell us about that process and why you've gravitated toward that.
I think it's a natural progression for me. When I started out, I wanted to be a songwriter. You know, I can still remember words like, I will build you a castle with a tower so high it reaches the moon. I will gather the melodies from the birdies that fly to compose you a tune. So I'm talking about Smokey Robinson here. So I go all the way back to those guys, Smokey, Stevie, Maurice White, And I wanted to be able to tell a story in 2 minutes. And because I was very shy at the age of 13, 14, I thought one of the things I could do was to write a nice little song I could present to a girl that I had my heart set on. And that would immediately impress her. And we would be just like in the movies and float away on a cloud somewhere and happily ever after and everything. So I came from a background of being a songwriter. So my poetry began to flow in that direction. And as I began to grow as a poet and learn about other things like simile and metaphor and imagery and alliteration and begin to understand these things, I started to grow as a poet. But initially, I'm a songwriter. So that's why I always have that lyrical flow to what I do when I write.
Okay, so I'm looking at a couple of, you have a lot of accolades in the chat, so I hope you're paying attention to that. Let's see, questions, let's see, people are responding to the sing-song nature of your poetry. Let's see. I'm looking for an actual question. Most of it is accolades.
I saw one.
So, yeah, you just have a lot of fans.
Well,
if you see a question, if you saw a question that you want to respond to, that'd be fine.
I saw one from Otis Stanley.
Oh, how has your poetry evolved?
Exactly. Otis knows me from
yes, that's the question.
All right. So pretty much what I explained to you is what Otis knows me for. I used to sit in class and just daydream sometimes and just be writing something down. Or I go to my friends, because at that time I wasn't really a poet. I was a young teenager with a dream. And so I would come to my friends and tell my friends what I got. And Otis is an artist. He paints, he draws pictures. So obviously we have a connection.
So he's a visual artist.
Yes, okay. We have a connection that is so tight than anybody else, because we're both on that creative, with the creative state of being in life. And therefore, you know, he saw those in the beginning, and now here I am writing this poem like, you know, New Skies, The Search for Blue in, which is not quite a song, but I imagine with the right creative, it could be a song. But my focus has changed.
Well, Bernardo, I thank you for being with us today, and stick around, because there may be some point that we come back and hear from you on issues later. But again, thank you for being a guest on From a Poet's Point of View.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next poet is Hoke S. Glover, the third. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, most of you know him as Brother Yao. Okay, so let me share a little bit of bio information before we hear from him directly. In 1992, with an initial investment of $500, Brother Yao, with his wife Carla and business partner Simba Sana, began Karibu Books as a vending operation while he was a student at Bowie State University. Now, over the next 15 years, Karibu Books went on to become one of the nation's largest African-American bookstores, with 6 locations, over 40 employees, and $3.7 million in gross sales. Over its 15 years, the company distributed hundreds of thousands of books about African-American people and their culture to the residents of Prince George's County and the country as a whole. He received his MFA from University of Maryland, College Park, in poetry in 1997. His poetry and writings have been published in the African American Review, Soul Fires, testimony, mosaic, smartish pace, Beltway Quarterly, and other journals and anthologies. Now, over the last 20 years, he has focused most of his work on promoting reading and history in the Prince George's County area in particular. He has also performed as a poet over the last 20 years at a variety of venues, primarily in the Washington metropolitan area. Currently, Hope Glover serves as an associate professor at Bowie State University in the English department, where he teaches composition and poetry. He resides in Glendale, Maryland, with his wife and 3 children. So, Brother Yao, welcome to From a Poet's Point of View.
Hey, Sister Joy, can you guys hear me all right?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, I guess a couple of things. One is, you know, my writing in particular focuses on family. My first book was called Inheritance, which deals primarily with my mother and my father. And then my second book is called One Shoe Marching Towards Heaven, which came out in August. And there are a lot of poems about family in that book. But the other thing that I do, which I just want to mention, is, you know, I spent time in Wuhan, China, when I took my sabbatical from Bowie State University. You know, after building the bookstore, I was a little in the dumps, to say the least. $1 million bankruptcy really sort of tested my psyche. And so I began an interest in China and practicing the art of Tai Chi. And so I spent the 2016-2017 academic year in Wuhan, which at the time, nobody in the world knew what it was. They were always like, what's that city you were in China? Wuhan, I never heard of that. And just so you know, Wuhan's got about 15 million people. Well, Chinese people, you know, there's so many Chinese people. We could say in between 12 and 15 million people, right? So it's almost, you know, it's at least 1.5 times the size of New York. And it's one of the biggest cities in China with a really rich history. But I practiced Tai Chi there and, you know, sort of came back. The second book, One Shoe Marching Towards Heaven, is really something unique for African-American literature, because I have a series of poems that are called koans. And if you know anything about Zen Buddhism, a koan is a tool used to teach practitioners about the slick and tricky nature of thought, you know, on their quest to enlightenment. And so I've studied the I Ching, which is an ancient Chinese book, extensively for about the last, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years. And so I have a series of poems in the book that are koans that in some ways deal with race, but not really race, but more so racist phenomena. And they are numbered in association with the I Ching hexagrams. So some of my work is really like, I think, you know, and I say it based on my pain and suffering, but it's going to take this country a while to sort of read those books, because they come out of the tradition. Like there's one level of reading which is surface and related to this culture, but then there's another level of reading those texts, which really has a lot to do with Taoism, Tai Chi, and the I Ching. But the unique thing about the books is that I don't reference China. I don't think I even use the word China in the book. I operate from the framework of an African-American perspective and then reach out. So I talked about family, and what I want to do is I want to read two poems that relate to my father. So I write about my father quite a bit, and my mother. And one I just recently wrote within the last day or two, which is always a little sketchy with a poet, right? Poets always talk about how much they tinker with language now. But I think I also have a jazz aesthetic. And, you know, John Coltrane, you know, played a solo because of the day and the time, you know? And in some ways, my poems are a recording of that. And if you know anything about the East works that way too. that a master of poetry oftentimes can speak it just as sure as they can write and tinker about it. So I'm going to read these two poems, but I'm going to say one last thing, and I know I've talked quite a bit, but one last thing is that, you know, as consciousness evolves in our lives, particularly in reference to our families, you know, I told my son one day, or shared with him, you know, he talked about some things in the family, and I said, read your family like the Bible, in the sense that read those relationships and those interactions, not with the sense that they're definitive and that you understand and there's a certain conclusion that you draw, but read them again and again and again. And as you grow older and as you have children and all of these things, part of what you will find is that you already have the memory and a sense of what the text is, but each time you gain wisdom, you'll be able to see those relationships in a different way. So I'm going to leave out the first poem, which is called The Science of Forgetting, which is written about my father in my earlier years. And then what's happened after that is I have another poem called My Father Rides His Horses into the Distance. And then the final poem is called On Storms. And both of those are about my evolving consciousness about my relationship with my father. So I'll begin with My Father Rides His Horses into the Distance. What now, she asks, and slams the door, violence hidden, and the sex underneath that. Walk across the room and cry a little, but don't let nobody see it. Both of them, like opposites and ideas, with flesh pasted on the skeletons. Then the dust comes, then the speeches, the long rants and heads, fights that have no words, the dead people who could not rest, the sun going down. The old streets of the city where once there were horses, a man singing ice, milk, butter, bread, what it's all about. He goes outside and talks to the man in the always winter, the cold heated by his breath. He whispers and the white smoke rises. He sings the only song he knows. He will not go back into the house. He buys a horse who is too old to run and grabs the rope and walks him down the street and into the night, and the cold swallows him. Okay, and then, and just to give you this, the first poem, The Science of Forgetting, and I think it's sort of important, The Science of Forgetting talks more so about my father leaving our family, and in that way sort of draws on these tropes of a Black man who's not settled enough to stay with his family. In My Father Rides His Horses into the Distance, I began to understand a different perspective of my father and why he left. I realized, oh, wow, some men leave because the situation is not the best. And so when we get to the end and we have him walk a horse that's too old to run into the distance, there's a sense of resignation, but it's very different from abandonment. So in the first poem at a younger age, as my kids are young, I'm thinking, oh, it's about abandonment. Then I get to this point where I understand there's some legitimate issues that are there. And then the final poem, or at least the next iteration, because I'll be writing them for the rest of my life, is called On Storms. I am not a poet. My father told me so. Never said that I was anything less. Anything more wouldn't sound right. He knew a compliment is half dream, half devil. Feed the ego and it sings hunger louder. So we'd sit in the dark, sometimes looking lonely. Silence bleeds the heart of its contradictions. We were not sad or crying into ourselves. I thought that at first. I didn't know how to listen. Born into that house with its complex math. It's all the same day. Some of us so blind, we think singing a heart that's broken make it heal. He never said he liked it. never said he didn't. You might not think he was listening, but maybe he was hearing what I couldn't. He told me to watch the storms come in. I looked at the sky, dark and blue, saw the rain come, but still wondered what he meant to say, what nothing was. Maybe that was the point. Maybe he was a storm. Maybe there are some things you just can't sing.
Okay, Brother Yao, ever the philosopher, ever feeding us mentally and spiritually. Thank you for those two. Well, you've already given us the backstory to the poems, so I won't ask for that. But you are in a unique position at certainly the HBCU, Bowie State University, where you impress upon young minds the significance of words. So for our guest today, although we cannot offer them a literature tutorial, what would you say as to the significance of words in this time, particularly of pandemic?
You know, for me, it's interesting. When Caribou closed down many years ago, you know, I envisioned a sort of new venture, which was called Transcendence. And it talks about China. It talks about, I'm sorry, my phone, forgot to mute it. But it talks about, you know, China, India, and Africa. And the sort of note that goes up under it is beyond words. You know, my interest as a poet is really about human cognition and the way it relates to the linguistic representations. So for me, poetry is about the struggle to articulate what we already know. And then if you apply Taoism to it, it would be about, you know, Taoism is in contrast with, you know, if the Bible says, and I think it's in John, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And so the Word is the power to speak things into being. In Taoism, the first section of Taoism says the Tao that can be spoken of is not the original Tao, and that the names that can be given are not the original names. And so for me, you know, poetry is about, you know, watching, and I guess you could say with mindfulness, how it is that thought or human cognition makes its way into a linguistic representation and exists in society. So I think in the time of pandemic, I mean, I would argue, and I mean, I've watched too much TV. I think most people have. But the other thing is, you know, perhaps, you know, we'll learn to contemplate silence a little bit better and gain a sense of stillness. You know, perhaps we'll learn to, and we may not have been doing that. You know, I mean, elections are hard.
To appreciate.
And the country is so divided, you know, and so much of the division is about words. But part of what I'm trying to get at is that when we get to human cognition, I mean, the way I look at most of the people on the right, and, you know, nobody's going to put me on C-SPAN to say it, is similar forms of human cognition with different choices of words. Is all.
Okay.
You know, that is not really about words. The living is beyond words, you know, but words are, you know, the glue and the oil of society and what we use to represent our cognition. But again, when I look at people on the right, I'm like, I mean, who do they love? Not who they hate, but who they love, who they work for, and what are the things it is that they envision, you know, in life, you know. And I try and imagine that the words that represent enemies that are so often profiled are just one tiny portion of all the words they have in their life, you know. If I had church with them on Sunday morning, they'd have different words, you know. So I think that's part of what we have to do in the time of the pandemic is learn to measure words as just a representation, and often a faulty representation of human cognition and what we're thinking, not the definitive one. And I think that may help the divisiveness in the country.
Thank you. I tend to agree. So much of the challenge for society is that we are dependent upon words, and we are not the most literate of societies. So it's up to the poets. We've got to make the difference and try to awaken those conscious moments that make a difference between what could be a fatal mistake or a light embarrassment. All too often, they're all rolled into one. Thank you, Brother Yao. And as I said to Bernardo, please stick around. We want to hear from you. Let me see if there's any, no, I don't see any questions in the chat. So for our guests, please remember to post questions in the chat for our guest poets. We want them to respond directly to you. Okay, I'm gonna move on to our guest poet number 3. And how they say, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Trust me, it is with great honor that I introduce to you Gail Danley. I could just go totally off script and speak as a fan, but I didn't do that for the first 2, and they know that I am fans of theirs as well. Gail Danley has fans across the globe. After winning the International Poetry Slam in Heidelberg, Germany, poet Gail Danley entered America's classrooms, teaching thousands of children how to access their emotions through the forces of words. She performed and taught her way from Maryland Young Audience's Artist of the Year to National Young Audience's Artist of the Year. She has captured the International Poetry Slam Champion title again in Heidelberg, Germany. That was back in 1996. CBS 60 Minutes profiled her work with middle schoolers in Baltimore County, as well as the Baltimore Sun, Washington Post, and New York Times. She recently curated 3 decades of teaching her art form into Lessons in Poetry, an online course that builds students' emotional well-being while teaching them how to create poetry from start to finish. Now, Gail was recently named Maryland Library Association Poet of the Year, still garnering accomplishments and accolades. Gail Danley is CEO of Poetry Prose. She is the former national and international Poetry Slam champion, the Maryland Library Association Poet of the Year. Gail Danley, welcome to From a Poet's Point of View.
Thank you, Sister Joy. Always smile when I'm with you.
Very honored.
I just, when I'm in your air, it just makes me feel like smiling. Yo, can we just take a minute and just smile at each other? I think what I'm going to do is open up my gallery view. We spend so much time mean mugging. Let's just smile. Let me see. Let me see Nan and Constance and Bundy and Aressa. Let me see y'all smiling at me. You ready? Wait, one on the count of 4. We're going to smile. You ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Smile. Yes, yes. And listen, the first word of my poem is the word mama. So you know you need to smile. The first word is mama.
Okay, Gail, you have 2 poems that you're going to share with us?
I got many poems. I got as many poems as you would like for me to share.
But we only have time for 2 to start.
That's all. That's what I got.
Time allows.
That's what I got. I got 2 for.
Okay.
Can you raise your hand for me if you love your mama? Nice. Can you raise the other hand for me if you love her and you've lost her? So this poem is for all of you. Sister Joy, can you mute? You getting a lot of noise back there from your there you go. Thank you. Y'all, this poem is for all of you. All of us who love our mamas and we have to wait to see her in our dreams. Mama, why didn't you show us, me, Melanie, and Troy, how to love Daddy? There was moonlight on his skin too. Did you see it? Why didn't you say sweet, sugary things to us like, your father, he's so funny. Your daddy, he's so crazy. With his New York tongue and his nose big like a fist, that would have made us squeeze giggles all over Daddy's skillet back black skin. You could have pressed us into the glee of his arms. You could have required that we kiss his slacking cheeks till they became glass jars wet with cherries. Daddy was sweet. Mama. He was your vinegar, but he was our honey bun. He could have been. How could you, Mama, subtract him from our Saturdays because you didn't want him to be your Friday night? Huh, Mama? But we found him. Through kitchen window cracks and the peepholes chewed in grilled cheese sandwiches, we found him. His wrinkled hands and big apple eyes. His dancing shoes and half-paid mortgages. We stitched his laughter inside the satin of his grandchildren's graduation robes. We dodged you to locate him, two-stepping at the outskirts of your anger, Mama. His arms were open, Mama. You minused him, but we multiplied his love, Mama. We added him to our children's lives. We taught him to love. We taught them to love him for what we had found in him. A dark man, a short man, a daddy man. It's Thursday. Me, Daddy, and my little Noni are squished in the front seat of a rented car. Laughter rains on the windshield. Stars become our streetlights. We sing, no more boogers on the floor, no more boogers on the door. And my daddy doesn't stop us to say, that's stupid. Shut up that noise. You're getting on my nerves. We just sing until our throats are worn like wood, until the windows are white with breath, until we love him, until we find him again. You got to find folk for yourself. Don't let nobody tell you, Rena, how you should feel about somebody else. You go see for yourself. You go discover for yourself. Don't let somebody tell you what you can't do, Aressa. You go do it. You go do it for yourself. And then when you find that you were unable to do it, then you can go, oh, okay, I was unable to do it. Just because mama didn't love him, oh my God, Constance, this was a hilarious man. Here we are in the car singing about boogers. Me, him, and my daughter. And he's just singing with us. He's so funny. He was so wonderful. I'm wondering, Sister Joy, if it's okay with you, if I can ask either Nan or Bundy, or if it's okay if I ask Constance, if they would just unmute for just a second, maybe, to tell us somebody that they had to find for themselves. You couldn't take somebody else's word for it. Is that okay, Sister Joy, if one of them unmutes and just talks to me for a second?
Absolutely. Yes, that's be fine.
Okay, thank you. How about it, Bundy? How about it, Nan? How about it, Constance? Can you unmute? Have you discovered somebody for yourself?
I have discovered my father over the last 60 years. I'm still searching for my mother.
You know, the minute somebody says, Nan, this next poem is about my mama, I don't care if it is the worst poem I have ever heard in my life. They have me as soon as they say that. I had two mamas. One of them named me Gail, and the other one spelled it Gayle. So I have all sorts of mama issues. And most of my work, Nan, is about my mama. Mamas. It's about finding them, right? And
Yep.
Finding them in me.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a college roommate whom I was kind of intimidated by. She was very bright. We were at a very small college, and she was really quite intimidating, but I really got to know her somewhat in college. But then after college, we roomed together in Boston, and she was very, very activist. I was not. I was just trying to make a living, getting a salary below the poverty level. And but then in our later years, I came to know her really well. And I said, you know, how did I not know this person as well as I do now? But I guess we all change. So I had much more in common with her. And unfortunately, now she's having memory problems and has just moved into another space, so to assisted living. And I may not have the chance to be with her. And it's a sadness in my life. But it was an evolution. And I'll always think of her with great love.
Bundy, she was probably intimidated by you. She probably looked at you and thought, I could never be that smart. I could never be that beautiful. We have so many misperceptions about each other, don't we?
We do. Absolutely.
Like you're probably thinking this is my hair.
Is it?
A black woman never tells, Bundy. Right, Aressa? You will never know. That's right. Keep it covered. You all are not worthy of my hair. That's what it's about, right, y'all? It's about really writing from the gut. Right. If you're writing from the gut, why are you wasting your time?
That's true.
You are wasting everybody's time trying to be fancy, right? Trying to be impressive when what you really need to do is save a little money on your therapist bill and begin to write from the gut.
That's true.
From the butt. From the gut and the butt. I got another one, y'all. You know, maybe if I don't do so much talking, Constance, in between the poem, maybe Miss, where's Sister Joy? I'm gonna walk to the other side of the room. Hold on, Nan. Maybe if I don't do so much talking about the poem, maybe I can squeeze in 3. Would that be okay? I'll squeeze it in. Don't get mad at me, Sister Joy. I mean, it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick when you write from the belly.
That's true.
You write from the gut. I went to a party right before the pandemic, like a week before. And this famous DJ had died all of a sudden. And it just messed a lot of people up, especially his fans, because he was still kind of young. His name was Sam the Man. They called him Sam the Man. Mm-hmm. And I went with a friend of mine to his memorial service. And it was held in a bar, like a disco kind of thing. So I didn't know Sam the Man. But I went because I wanted to see how they were going to do like a funeral service in a club. So folks was like dancing, and then they would stop dancing and start crying. It was the funniest thing. It was poignant. It was beautiful. And that's what I want y'all to do at my funeral. I want somebody to come in with the mac and cheese, and don't bring no bad mac and cheese. Come in there with the best that you can find with the 6 cheeses. Wow. And then somebody come in and y'all cry. So, woo, we gonna show Miss Sister Gail. And then I want somebody to put on some Al Green. And everybody start going, love and happiness. Right? So I went to the memorial. Mm-hmm. And I came home and I wrote this poem. Head over to the chat and let me know if you hear some lines in this poem that really touch your soul. Hang on, wait a minute. I got to see if I can pull it up. Hang on. Sorry, Sister Joy. Wait a minute. Here it comes. I got to pull it up. Hold up. Y'all are going to go over to the chat. And if you hear a line, if you hear a word, if you hear a sentence and you really like it, I want you to let me know over in the chat. Hold tough, hang tight. I thought I had it ready. Okay, here we go. You ready? Y'all say I'm ready, Gail.
Ready, Gail.
I love you. Here we go. It's called The Altar. The Altar. What's the name of it?
The Altar.
There you go. It says the fat man at the base of the stairs knows he ain't worthy of the drums, threatening to shatter the sweat-fogged windows of the 18th Street Lounge. So all he asked me for is ID. No one bothers to sweep or repair the 21 sacred steps leading to the light, dispersed by a disco ball, glittering though unshined. Girls' pumps flash red like cherries, lonely behind the bar. Let me stop, because don't nobody write good about music. How you smell it from the parking lot as you chapstick or mac your big ashy lips. No one gives a good doggone about club walls, except when it's time to lean against them, find your breath, and dive one more again inside the music. The music. coagulating in the crotch of your pants, clinging to your bra strap, digging grooves through your back fat and shoulders tight. If it wasn't for them 2 shots of bourbon, somebody say amen.
Amen.
They say his music kept you honest. That cat in the black baseball cap who cold clocked you in Target because he said you stole his records back in 1991. Forgive him. Like the tips of a DJ's fingers pardon the needle that knits them. That meter maid outside, writing an expensive sermon across your windshield. Let it go. That skinny man who cheese curled your heart in 10th grade. Let him off the hook. This about the music. I want you to pass the Bailey's Irish cream of melody and let it drip down your forehead into your dry eyes so you can see clear across the dance floor to the shrine for the DJ. Wait. DJs can't die. They live on in the baseline, agitating your one good miniskirt. The one that licks you between your behind and the back of your left knee that ain't even hurting tonight. So you and all the other mourners keep right on dancing, shaking snot on the dance floor, tossing them blues, dissolving in black pools of light beneath your feet, crying in your pretty shoes a ½ inch too little. Even the grocery store carnations cradling the mix master's picture taken at the harbor 6 years ago pulsate when the singer screams like a gorilla in the jungle. Man, please, you ain't never seen a funeral like this. This orgy of pain and forget it. I gotta dance. That's my song. That's my song. DJ, play it all night long. Throw your hands up. Throw your hands up. If the first time you heard this song, it was right here at the lounge and DJ Sam played it for you. That rhythm good like collard greens. You was 40 at the door, but now you 22. And your cellulite is gone when the music made the toilet tissue shake her shoulders. Bottles of scotch twerking. Kindergarten teachers gonna be sleepy in the morning, but they could not miss this service. This homegoing of funk and sob, the waft of Rite Aid cologne, glasses letting off steam in the bartender's hair. Have mercy. This is where music becomes memorial. This is where the music stops and the lights come on and the dancers die and a candle cries tears of wax across Sam's smile, frozen in a frame surrounded by an obituary of flowers, yellow. The news said that his ex-wife found him unresponsive last night. And ain't that just like a man? Don't ask. Stuff happens between songs. The vinyl's edges are so sharp and unrelenting. Let's just call it life. Another record spun till it warps, till it melts in the backseat of our dreams. Let's just write this one off on the tab. Let's meet tomorrow night. Beg the DJ to play our song so we can dance like we in college, like the rent ain't due, like we 22 and we still stupid. Let the music play. It won't get away. And play, and play, and play, and play. So the DJ can live again.
Yes.
Nice.
I didn't realize, y'all, that again is at the end of both of the poems. Sorry about that, Richard. Sorry. I didn't know the last word of both of those poems is again. Yes, Sister Joy, I know you got some questions for me. Thank you for letting me share.
I'm very, very happy that you did. What I would like to do is, although we're so full from your offering, I want you to talk about your writing process, because your performance process speaks for itself, but your writing process must be equally amazing. So talk to us about, how does Gail Danley go from here to here, to on the stage, on the page?
A lot of times, y'all, the poem is already written, right? And all I have to do is obey. I just have to take dictation. The poem, it's like giving birth to them babies. Richard, you don't know nothing about this. Where's Ann? Ann, you know how, Ann, do you have more than one child? Patty, how many babies you got?
Two grown babies.
2 grown babies.
And 3 grandchildren. Yeah.
Did they both come in the same way, or did one of them come after a whole lot of pushing and the other one came like whoops?
Well, both of them came faster than anybody else besides me thought they were coming.
Yeah. That's how my poems are, Patty. Yeah. They just come sometimes when I'm lucky.
Yeah,
you know,
when you're lucky.
Writing about losing the mamas, those take a little longer, because I got to work through some of the grief so that I can grab a pen and get still enough to take the dictation. But a lot of the poems, like the one for Sam and the 18th Street Lounge, that thing came whole. The head, the arms, the torso, the neck, the nipples, the feet, the knees, you know. So sometimes, Sister Joy, I just have to write it down. I'm so lucky. I'm the luckiest poet I know. I was born with this poetry. When I was 3, when I was in the church nursery school, I didn't go to kindergarten. We did church nursery school from 3, 4, and 5. And then at 6, I went straight to 1st grade, right? I was so lucky because I would look out at my world. I would look at the sliding board and there a poem would be. Isn't that lucky, Patty?
Very. All you have to do is write it down. Yeah.
I have to be, I can't resist it, and I can't call it ugly names. I can't say, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, I don't like that. I have to just be open, and I have to let it come the way it comes. I have this piece about how we had all of this backyard, right, in my growing up house down in Atlanta, Patty. And it was just all backyard. And it was trees, and it was vines, and it was tadpoles, and it was hills, and it was rocks. And we called it Africa. Because, you know, what did we know? We didn't know that Africa was a whole continent, right? And so we called it Africa. And that, tell you what, baby, that thing just came. That poem, it just came. And it sat right here on my shoulders. And all I had to do was let it do what it do. Yes, Sister Joy, what's the next good question you got for me?
Well, I mean, the main thing I wanted to, we had been talking about backstory, and we had been talking about writing process. So I want you to tell us, what would you feel is your message for guests today? What is it that you think will make a difference in the writing life of our guests? Because most of our guests are writers. Nice, good, yay. Come on, y'all. Can we applaud ourselves? Come on. It takes a lot of guts and nuts to be a writer, doesn't it, Ty? It takes a lot of guts because your family wants you to do something else. They all right when your writing is for the birthday party. They okay when your writing is the poem at the wedding. But the minute you stand up and say, no, I'm gonna do this for a living, they start looking at you like, and I'm the fairy godmother. It takes a lot of balls. It does. It takes a lot of courage. So my advice to you is just do it. Don't listen to them people. And don't worry about, well, you know, Miss Gail, I picked up a pencil for the first time last night. I'm 82.
And what? And what? So that means you got a whole lot of parties to write about. That means you done a whole lot of drinking and a whole lot of living and a whole lot of loving. So we can't wait to hear your poem. Don't let anybody tell you that your words are not worthy. Your words are worthy. And another thing, let me see if there's anybody on here that's kind of young. Let me see. We got some beautiful veterans hanging out today. Let me tell you something. No, Bernardo, this ain't for you either. Bernardo, give me a kiss. Lean in, give me a kiss. Let me tell you something. Listen. Stop trying to write like everybody else. I know I wasn't supposed to say that, but I couldn't help it, Rena. You know, sometimes we find our favorite poet. Y'all know I ain't lying. We go out to the poetry slam and we say, "Oh, I like that one. I like Talam AC. Ooh, I like Kanicki. That's my favorite. Ooh, I like Taylor Molly." And then we get home and everything we're putting out is because we're trying to recreate. No, write like you and read like you. Let me go over to the other side of the room and fuss for a minute. I have a good friend, Nan, and she is an exquisite writer. So she had a book release party recently. And I came because I love her and she's exquisite. She started reading that poetry and it was so locked into cadence. Do y'all know what I mean by that? It was like I couldn't get into the words because she was so reliant on everything had to be spoken in a certain way. And I just wanted to tell her so badly, baby, read that thing like you. Stop trying to read like Emily Dickinson and read like you. She was very sad and depressed. Don't mimic her. Read like you. Read with the naturalness of your voice. So when you say, behind my house at the backyard's edge, a few feet from our hanging shirts and nightgowns was Africa. Just speak it, baby. Just speak it. Just speak it just like you, because nobody can write like you, Ann, and nobody can speak like you. Be you and learn who to ignore. Do your thing and write raunchy. Don't feel like everything you write has to be for the church or for your ex-husband. Write you down so that when you leave up out of here, we still have you throughout eternity. But if you're busy mimicking somebody else, we're not going to have you through eternity. Be you. Be completely you so that when you are gone, you are still here. I'm good, Sister Joy. I was fussing. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sure you got another question for me.
No, that was words of wisdom from someone who is in a position to tell you.
I think, Nan, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that that's wonderful advice, Gail, but when I grow up, I want to be just like you.
Well, you got to get a hair weave and some few tans and stuff, Nan, to get this beauty going on. Should I, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Should I check in the chat? I'm so into people.
Okay.
I'm so into you that I forget to go over and check the chat. Yes, Sister Joy, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, we don't have folks in the chat as we had been before. At least let me look and see. I forgot to scroll down. Okay, let's see.
Oh, somebody said that's good stuff, Gail. Thanks for that. You are welcome, baby. That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Joy.
Yes.
Can I relay a little story about Gail Danley, the amazing
Absolutely.
poetess?
Absolutely.
I met Gail, and we talked about this recently. I met Gail years ago at another friend of mine's grandmother's house at a Thanksgiving dinner. I didn't know anything about her being a poet, and we were just talking. I had a poem that I wrote about Thanksgiving that she had hanging up on her refrigerator. And when Gail and I started talking, Gail told me, you know, I'm a poet, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm a poet, all right, cool. And then I turned on 60 Minutes a couple of weeks later, and there was Gail Danley, and I'm like, I met her. I have become since then a lifelong fan of Gail Danley. I've experienced the quiet side of Gail Danley, if you will, just real low key.
Oh,
and
I'm not sure I met that quiet. No, Gail
Bernardo,
is
I had lunch.
Live.
No, I'm not. Very pensive. I had lunch on Thursday with a reporter from CBS, right? And she said she was really surprised at the Gail that she saw because she thought it was going to be that Gail, and she thought it was an older Gail. And when I came, she said, oh my God, you're so much younger and you're so much quieter and so much more reflective. You know what I reflect on a lot, Bundy? I reflect on how, and I invite you all to do this as well. And I think Bernardo and I, when he called me a few weeks ago, I think we talked about this too. Spend some time reflecting on how you can maximize your gift. I think sometimes as poets, we kind of get stuck on, oh, well, I'm just a broke poet. Well, I'm finished with that. I'm done with that, Bundy. I want to sit and be in a palatial home just like yours. Right? I want to create opportunities for my sons to go to basketball camp and Harvard, just like yours. And so I'm no longer going, well, I'm just this little broke poet. No. As a matter of fact, shameless plug, Sister Joy mentioned to you all that I had created something called Lessons in Poetry. When we get off of this, go and Google that and go purchase a package for yourself and your family. Lessons in Poetry. Go and get the package. It is time, Bernardo, to begin figuring out how to not just be making ends meet anymore, and to figure out how your white friends are doing it. I talked to a white friend yesterday. I'm sorry, Sister Joy, you didn't ask me about my white friend. I talked to a white friend yesterday, and she was talking about the ease in her life. She was saying that their children have a nanny, and she and her husband are about to buy another house, and he's an attorney and she's a doctor. And I was sitting there and I was listening to her like, that's gonna be me too. I was listening too. I was thinking about Black privilege, the privilege that I have as a Black woman, as a close friend of Kamala Harris's. I was thinking, well, it's my turn too. It's my time. It's my time, and no shame in the game. I put 30 years in teaching y'all's children, and I should be able to pay my mortgage and pay my Mercedes car note. I'm sorry, Sister Joy. You didn't ask me to.
Hey, Joy and Gail, can I say something?
Yes, talk to me, handsome.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to say something to you that you don't know, speaking as germane to what you just said. In 1999, I saw that piece on you on 60 Minutes. I created a program called Slam Your Stress that I then marketed and started taking it all over the country. And I literally have formed this workshop, poetry workshop training session, and it's gotten me paid from AARP to Xerox Corporate as a result of your inspiration when I saw that. So I want to thank you. As soon as I saw your name, I said, I got to be there to let you know that you, as a result of you, I ain't doing too bad.
Look at you. You probably doing better than me. We better talk. Let me put my look at that, y'all. I'm putting my phone number over in the chat. Look at here.
Okay.
Putting it in the chat.
Who's featured today, every featured poet, please put your contact information in the chat. As a matter of fact, anyone who's on this Zoom today, if you wish, you may put your contact information so that, and put your name beside it, even though it shows, sometimes it doesn't show your whole name. But if you want to be in touch, put your contact information, whether it's email that you prefer. If you have a website, put your website in the chat. This is something that we all want to do, is to create our own network.
Yes.
Create opportunities for connections that go beyond this moment in time.
Absolutely. And stop being afraid or be afraid. No, let me put that differently. Go ahead and be afraid and do whatever you need to do anyway. And stop worrying about what your sister is going to think about what you are doing. And you have something to give to this world. I have something to give to this world. And if we are afraid and if we shrink back, then we can't give it. Shrink up, Patty. Shrink forward. And it wasn't until I started talking like this, Richard leaned forward. He said, let me hear some of this stuff, because this is good stuff. Absolutely good looking. This is good stuff. Y'all, we are powerful. Right, Mr. Glover? With that good poetry that you were reading. We are powerful. Go make your money and get you some friends, have some money too. Let me tell you something. I'm sorry, Miss Joy. Let me tell you something, Rena. After the George Floyd thing went down, right? I'm going to tell y'all something. I shouldn't be telling you, so I'm going to tell it quick, so you need to listen. One of my Jewish girlfriends, I love her to death. To death. We sat Shiva after our mothers died. I love her to death. So she called me the morning after the George Floyd thing, not the verdict, but the actual heinous thing. And she said, Gail, what do you need? You listening, Bernardo? I said, what you mean what I need? She said, how can I help you? I said, well, we talk once a month. I love. She said, how can I help you? And I said, I have a $60,000 tax burden. Keeps me up at night. I'm surprised I don't have cancer. You know, when you worry like that constantly, it can create cancer in your body. So I've been thinking the IRS is going to lock me up. I mean, I've been scared for years, right? Every time some celebrity gets locked up, I'm like, ooh, next, right? I was on a payment plan and then it defaulted. She said, how can I help you? And so I told her and we cried together. She said, I'll take care of it. Don't you worry about it anymore.
Wow.
Who's clapping? Am I the only one clapping? Get you some friends, y'all. It's okay to have your broke friends. It's nice to have a broke friend. And then you all can talk about, well, if I pay the rent, I might not be able to pay Pepco. That's okay to talk about. But also have within your network people who will come to you and say, what do you need? And will help you, right? That's nice, right? And will help you, Aressa.
Yep, I agree.
Over to the chat. I'm trying to go to Hawaii. Hello. I'm sorry, Sister Joy. What was I know you had another question.
No, I was just trying to open it up for everyone who wanted to be asking questions or providing feedback. Just feel free. We have about another 20 minutes.
Awesome. Are me, Bernardo, and Yao, are we going to do another poem, or what? How would you like to handle the last 20, Sister Joy? Oh, Sister Joy was breaking up.
On mute. Joy, you're muted.
Okay, so I'm going to ask can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask if Bernardo, who was the first and didn't quite have as much time, if Bernardo, could you share one more short poem? And we're going to ask if Brother Yao will also share one more short poem. Yeah.
You got it.
Okay.
I have it already queued up in my head. Going back to what my sister was talking about, writing from the gut. When I first showed up at, when I first followed Kenny Carroll to It's Your Mug, and I saw all those poets up there spitting from the word go, and DJ Renegade, or another one I didn't know was famous, so I read about him in the Washington Post, doing what they were doing. I was like shaking in my boots. All I had was written paper and stuff, and I'm shaking the page, and my leg is shaking. And then I met a brother named Mwali Askari. And Askari pulled me to the side and said, young brother, look, yes, they're writing some phenomenal things, but you have a voice. You have something worth saying. So stay true to who you are. And kind of like today's format, we all are different poets who write from different ways. And I wholeheartedly agree with both Gail and Brother Yao that poetry is a gift. It comes to me, I'll wake up and I'm obedient and start writing it down if I never finished it. That's how Listen got started, on 7 different pieces of paper, all right? So anyway, the poem I came with is the poem that was birthed right after I talked to Brother Askari on the way home. I could hear it happening in my head. And it began like, there's noise in the background again. Joy, there you go. And the poem started happening in my head like, I can't flow like you flow, go like you go, blow like you blow. See, my instrument is tuned in B. To or not to, what have I got to lose by choosing to play the riffs of bliss that exist in the midst of the gift I am blessed with? I was born to blow my own horn. So stop chasing the cows in the corn and come back, baby, come back, because even a humpback whale has got a tail and a place to swim in the space that he's in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. Stop wasting your time taking my rhymes apart. They work better when you take them to heart. Check out the logic this project is kicking and chart the progress from the very start. You can't put the cart before the horse. It took some time, but now I find that this is my voice. 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 My voice is the voice that launched 1,000 quips, quotes, and to those from other people's lips. To ego trip, I don't have time to. I will sit down here to remind you that God is in charge of the universe. And these are his words for the better or for the worse. If the people don't feel me, yes, my feelings are hurt. But I would rather it be said he was a blessing instead of a curse. If I can keep the next one's son from a hearse and just give him more time, then as far as rewards are concerned, then I got mine. To beg a few, 2 or 3 for a dime? That was not the purpose when he gave me the rhyme. I must be true to how it was designed, because you know it flows best when it's rightly aligned with a power that towers above over all. It's a voice still and small, but when I heed his call, he teaches me to stand, to stay and obey, to kneel and to pray, to wait and survey, to follow the way when I'm making my choice. Above everything, to sing in this key, because this is my voice. This is my voice. This is my voice. This is my voice. So I think I found myself, y'all, a lifelong journey of 60-something years, but now I'm standing out here just bearing my soul to you, because word, as my brother Yao said, in the beginning was the word. And when I realized that the creator gave me the ability and poured into me word that I could then shape and form and transmit to others to make their lives better and heal me at the same time, woo! Don't get a whole much better than that, y'all. Thank you, Sister Joy.
All right, Bernardo, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, let's see. We're going to come back around to Brother Yao, and then I will close out with one poem. Let me mention, for those that are not familiar with Zoom, in the chat, if you can look at the very bottom where it says there are 3 little dots next to the word file, those ellipses, if you click on that, it allows you to save everything that's in the chat. So all that contact information, the questions, the feedback, those are all available for you to So please do save the chat and be in touch with any of the poets that are with us today. My device just went down. I'm not there. Okay, so I can't tell if, well, what I'll do then is go ahead and share the poem that I wrote. Oh my gosh. So I think Brother Al may have already departed.
No, he's there.
So I'll share my poem. Is Brother Yao still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes, wonderful. Thank you.
Hey,
okay, so then Brother Yao, you have the stage. Pardon me.
Okay, yeah, and just a short poem, and again, thanks for having me, and I've enjoyed listening to you guys. You know, Gail, I never had the pleasure of doing a reading with you. And I haven't had the pleasure of doing a reading with you either, Bernardo. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. And I've been listening and working on my image bank and my sense of lyrics, you know. And as always, thank you, Sister Joy. This poem is called Heaven Number One. Later that day, when I thought about heaven again, I remembered you in the morning with your head resting back, your eyes closed, lips together like there were no words left in the world. I kissed you, looked out onto the street and saw the snow in the trees, a young boy in a blue cap riding his bike into the cold. I turned back to you, but you had risen then, and I watched you walk deeper into the house like a woman I never knew. Your dress was wrinkled, and I thought about your hips. We had already made love, and I wanted to kiss you again so that you would believe what I told you about the wild horses on the beach who eat out of strangers' hands and come to me in my dreams now almost every night.
Yao, thank you.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Yao.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yep.
Okay. Well, I hope everyone has been enjoying this episode of From a Poet's Point of View. We do it every month on third Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. I'm going to post out the set today. Unless we have comments and questions in the chat. Okay, so this poem is titled Walking in My Skin. Walking in my skin doesn't always take me to where I want to go. Seems like things I need to know elude me, delude me at times to the point of frustration, sometimes downright devastation. Got me making missteps in dark nights, feeling like I'm fighting for my life. Yes, I am fighting every day, not with my fists, but my soul, trying to get to where I know I should go. When I'm on track, I'll be listening, then lifting the word, sharing with senior and youth a message that needs to be heard. I discovered long ago, this journey is not about me. Often, not about me at all. I discovered that when I get serious, allow my spirit to soar, allow my spirit to hear divine words from on high, that's when it's time to put drama and ego to the side. Get me out of the way so things can finally fall into place. Then I can find a message in what looks like mess. Make these syllables count more than just metered measures of rhythm and sound. So I lift my voice, not just to make some noise, but like yesterday's warriors, I'm learning to beat the odds, fighting hard to be free, walking in my skin, learning to be me. When I talk about backstory for that poem, someone had asked me about what it means to me to be a poet. And I wrote that poem long before ever being appointed poet laureate. But the point is the same. For poetry to speak for itself, I don't want it to speak for me. I want poetry to speak for poetry. Because you see, poetry is a living thing. It's alive. It represents more than any one person, any one poet. It speaks to the issues of the day. Centuries from now, if this planet is still here, there will be folks looking back at the poetry that we have written and shared this day to assess what it is that was happening. And this is a critical time, not just for pandemic, but certainly for that. Not just for the divisions in America, but certainly for that. Not just what's happening in Palestine, in Paris, in South Africa. It's all about what the poets leave to convey the reality of society, of civilization, of humanity. I hope each of you will consider picking up a pen and writing from your gut, as Gail said, what it means to share, whether it be poetry or your testimony, what it means to share your story. Because ultimately that's what poetry is, your story. It should be your truth. It should be something that allows someone else to know you, to know what is happening at this time in this place we call America, we call humanity. I thank you for being with us today, and I hope that everyone has received something. I hope everyone who gave something received something in exchange. We want you to understand that poetry can only live when you make it live, when you make it real, when you tell the truth and take the blinders off, take the cushions off, and find a way for somebody else to come into your world, to understand what it is that you're trying to say. And sometimes it won't be pretty. Sometimes it won't be nice. Sometimes it'll be beautiful. And you'll discover nuances of yourself that you never allowed inside by telling your truth and understanding somebody else's truth, building bridges between generations, between cultures, and between men and women and children and seniors. That's what poetry can do. And that's what we want our poetry to do. And that's what I want your poetry to do. My email is in the chat. I hope you save the chat. I look forward to hearing from you. And thank you to all who have shared after our From a Poet's Point of View sessions by email or Facebook. Thank you for letting us know that our sessions are meaningful to you. Let me know if you know a poet that you want to hear from. I'm pretty much booked up through the end of fall, but we have a few more slots. Now, our next session From a Poet's Point of View will take place on June. As a matter of fact, it's June 19th. And those of you in the know, you understand that that's Juneteenth. And for our featured poets, we have none other than 13 of Nazareth, Kaniki Jakarta, who is, of course, the Alexandria, Virginia Poet Laureate, and Patrick Washington, who is the CEO and founder of Dialect of Prince George's, who manages and coordinates the entire Youth Poet Laureate programs for Prince George's County, Montgomery County. I can't remember all of them. I think also for Alexandria, but, and I believe Washington, D.C., the Youth Poet Laureate programs. Patrick Washington, taking our young people to new heights. And I understand that's through words, beats, and life. So anyway, Kaniki Jakarta, 13th of Nazareth, and Patrick Washington, right here next month, June 19th, From a Poet's Point of View. Thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to hearing from you next time. This is Sister Joy signing off. See you then.
Good night, everybody.